So welcome to the video lecture series on compiled design, and in today's class we will be learning about SLR parsing. So we are supposed to parse the grammar which is specified here. E tends to E plus T, E tends to T, T star F, T tends to F, and final sequence of grammars I have given. Altogether I have given 6 rules here. The first step what you have to do is you have to just frame the augmented grammar. So what is the augmented grammar here? So you can say that the augmented grammar we can just take up the starting symbol here. Starting symbol is E, and then you introduce a new non-terminal called as E dash and push the starting symbol on the right. So E is called as a starting symbol and place a dot before that. And whatever the original productions you have, just place a dot before every original production here. So the original production is E tends to E plus T. So I can place that E tends to dot E plus T. Then E tends to dot T. T tends to dot T star F. And then we can have T tends to dot F, then T tends to dot E, and the last one is F tends to dot ID. Okay, so these are the productions of augmented grammar. Now we will introduce this new augmented grammar item set as item set 0. So I just name it as item set 0. Now what you have to do is wherever the dot is before a terminal or a non-terminal, you have to supposed to process that. So here when you take up the first production, a dot is before E, and second production also dot is before E. Wherever dot is there, then you are supposed to process that. Okay. Now I take up this item set and dot is before E, so I have to just write go to of, so which is the item set? The item set is I0, and dot is before E here, so I just mentioned it as E. Now what you have to do when you just find a dot before E, just place this dot one step after this E, so it will become E dash tends to E dot. So after dot, nothing is there. Okay. Now when you just take up this grammar, second grammar also, dot is before E. Now you rewrite this E tends to E dot plus T, one step after that. Okay. Now there is not a dot before any E's here. So when you take up item set 0, so we are getting in item set 0, when you just process this E, we are getting a new item set. We will just name this item set as item set 1. Okay. Now we will go for the next production here. So a dot is before T here in item set, and dot is before T in the second, the very next production also. Now we have to process this too. So it is an item set 0. So we will just process that again. So go to of items at 0, and the dot is before T here. Go to of I0 comma T. Now as usual what you are doing, just place this dot after one step after this T here. So what will become E tends to T dot. Then E tends to T dot star F here. Now this is a new item set here, and this is a new item set. So just I name this item set as item set 2 here. Item set 2. Okay. Now when we closely observe this dot is before F here. Now we have to process this. So this T tends to dot F is in item set 0. So we have to process this. So I'm just writing that go to of item set 0 comma F, because dot is before F. So what will happen if I do this? Now this dot will be placed one step after this F. So as a result, it becomes the production T tends to dot F will become T tends to F dot. So this is a new item set. We will just name this as item set 3. Now we'll go for the next one. Now we take up this production dot is before an open bracket, so we have to process that. So f tends to open brackets. Now if we just place this dot after this open brackets, now dot will be before this non-terminal called as e. That means you have to include all the productions of e here. So now you just try to go to of items at 0 comma open brackets. So when we do this, it will become f tends to open brackets dot e. Now since a dot is before a non-terminal called as e, you have to include all the productions of this e here. So what are the productions for e? So e tends to dot e plus t and e tends to dot t. So now e tends to dot e plus t and e tends to dot t. Now when I just look into this one, now dot is before non-terminal here e, but that production e production, all the e productions has been included. But here dot is before a non-terminal called as t. That means you have to include all the productions for t here. What is the t production here? So t productions is t tends to t star f and t tends to dot f. So I include that t tends to dot t star f and t tends to dot f. Now when we closely observe this, dot t is there because non-terminal dot is before a non-terminal called as t, but t productions is already included. But when you just take up this dot f production is yet to be included. Now include all the f productions here. So f productions are f tends to dot e. So f tends to dot e open brackets and f tends to dot id. Now that's all. So all the non-terminals has been included here. So now we will just name this as item set as item set 4. Now when you go for items at 0, we have evaluated this open brackets. Now come to items at 0 where a dot is before id here. This has to be processed here. So we write go to of items at 0 comma id. So the production will become f tends to id dot. Now this set is actually named as item set 5. There is not any set called as f tends to id dot here. Okay. Now when you just take up items at 0, everything has been processed now. Now we will just go for item set 1. And item set 1 we have e dash tends to e dot, so no need to process that because dot is at the end. But when you take up the second production, dot is before plus here, so that has to be processed. So in items at 0, items at 1, we have to process this dot before plus. So write it as go to of items at 1 comma plus here. Now if I just do that, this dot will be moving one step to the right. So again dot will be before a non-terminal called as t. So t production has to be included. So e tends to e plus dot t. Now dot is before a non-terminal called as t. So all the t productions has to be included here. So I write as t tends to dot t star f and t tends to dot f. Now again dot is before f here. F is a non-terminal. Now include all the productions of f here. So f tends to dot e and f tends to dot id. Now we will name this as item set 6 here. Okay. Now item set 1 has been completely processed. We'll go for item set 2. When you go for item set 2, dot is at the end for this first production. But when you take up the second production, dot is before star. So we have to process that. So we will process item set 2 here. So we will process item set 2. So go to of item set 2 comma star here. So this will become t tends to t star dot f. Now dot is before F here. F is a non-terminal, so include all the productions for F here. So F production is F tends to dot E and F tends to dot ID. So we will name this item set as item set 7. That's it. Okay. Now we will go for the item set 2 has been completely processed here. We will go for item set 3. Now see item set 3 here. You just verify the canonical form for item set 3. Canonical form for item set 3 is actually dot is at the end. So no need to process this. Come to item set 4 here. When you just take up this item set 4, dot is before E here. And here also dot is before E. So when you take it up, we have to take these two productions into account because dot is before both E's here. So both the productions has to be taken into account. Now I just write it as go to of item set 4 comma E. Item set 4 comma E. Now if we just do this, this will become F tends to E dot, and one more production is there. This dot has to be moved on the right side. So this will become E tends to dot, E tends to E dot plus T. Okay. Now this has to be named as item set 8 here. So we'll just name this as item set 8. Now when you come for item set 4, okay, item set 4, go to of dot T. So go to of I4 comma T will be giving me that E tends to T dot. Okay, so E tends to T dot is already there here because E tends to T dot. Okay, E tends to T dot is here and E tends to T star F. Okay, dot T. Okay, so these two productions is already in I2, so we'll just anyhow write it. So go to of item set 4 comma T. So this will be giving me the same item set which is available for me in item set 2. Okay, so in item set 2 I have the same item set that E tends to T dot and T dot star F. So I just write it as item set 2 because I am getting the same item set here. Now we will go for the next one. T tends to F is here, dot is before F here. So item set 4 we have to process this. When you process this, it will become T tends to F dot. Okay. So T tends to F dot is already available in item set 3. So we will write it as go to of item set 4 comma F. So that will be giving me the same item set called as item set 3. Now when I go to evaluate this open brackets, a dot open bracket, dot is before open brackets here. When I just try to evaluate it, this dot will be moving one step on the right and it will be E. You have to include all the E productions. So when you include E productions, then you will get T here. You have to include all T productions, then F is there. F production you have to. So I will be getting the same item set for this. Okay. So when I evaluate this, go to of item set 4 comma open brackets. So this will be giving me the same item set called as item set 4. Okay. So no need to once again write the item set because it is getting repeated. Now if you just process this I4 comma ID, now it will become F tends to ID dot, but F tends to ID dot is already available in item set 5. So I can just write it as go to of item set 4 comma ID is equal to I5. Okay. Now I4 has been completely processed. When you come to I5, no need to process that because dot is at the end. Now I come to I6 here. When I come to I6, we have to dot is before T in two instances. In the first production as well as in the second production, you are supposed to process these two. Okay. When you process these two, so I just write it as go to of item set 6 comma T. So you have to process these two productions because dot is before t in these two productions. So you write E tends to E plus T dot. Okay, and another one, T tends to T dot star F. Okay. Now dot is not before a non-terminal here, it's only before a terminal. So we will just name this as item set 9 here. Just name this as item set 9. Now go to item set 6. We have to process this F here. T tends to F dot. Again you will get the same item set in item set 3. So go to of item set 6 comma F. You will get item set 3. And go to of item set 6 comma open brackets, you will get the same item set called as which is available in I4. So go to of item set 6 comma open brackets, you will get it as I4 here. Okay, now we have to process this F tends to ID here in item set 6. That is already available in I5 here, isn't it? So go to of item set 6 comma IDE will be giving me the answer called as I5. Okay, so there's not any change here. That's it. Now I6 has been processed. Now come to I7. So I7, when you just do it, so this will be made as T tends to star T star F dot. Okay. So when I do this, I can just write it as go to of item set 7 comma F. This will be giving me T tends to T star F dot. And that has to be named as item set. Already item set 9 is there, so this will be named as item set 10 because okay, so there is not any F after dot. There is not any dot before F here apart from except the first production, so we will skip it up. Now in item set 7 open brackets is there, so when I just to do it, I will actually get the same item set called as I4, isn't it? So we'll go for, so you just go to item set 7 comma open brackets. I will get I4, same items that I will be getting repeatedly. And when I just do this one in item set 7, when I do F tends to dot ID, ID will be you will get F tends to ID dot, which is already available in I5. So we will just name this. So go to of item set 7 comma item set 7 comma IDE. So I will get I5 here. I will get the repeatedly. I will get the same item set here. I7 has been processed. When you go to I8, okay. So when I go to I8, so you will be getting F tends to open brackets E close brackets dot here. So we will write go to of item set 8 comma close brackets. Close brackets, you will get F tends to E dot. Now this has to be named as item set 11. Okay. Okay, now we will process this one, the last one here. I8 is E tends to T dot. When I place this dot one step after that, it will be before T. Then you have to include all T productions. Then F before F it will be. Then you have to include all F productions. So I will be getting the same item set which is available in item set 6 here. So I don't want to repeat it. So I just go here and write go to of item set 8, and when I put plus here, so I will get the answer which is available in I6. So canonical forms is almost done now. When you just go to I8, nothing can be done here. Then we come to I9. I9 dot is already at the end, no need to do it. and when you just take this star here, you will get go to of, you will get the same item set dot before F here. So dot will be before F, and you will get the same production which is available in I7. So you will get the same production here. So I can rewrite this item set 9. So go to of item set 9 comma, so star. When I process the star, so I will get I7 here. So get I7. So it is actually getting repeated again and again. So item set 9 has been done now, and when I go to I10, so I10 nothing can be done, and because the dot is at the end. And when I go to I11 also nothing can be done because dot is at the end. That's it. Okay. So now you can see here that we have constructed a set of canonical items ranging from I0 to I11. That's it. Okay. Now time to construct the table, parsing table for this SLR parsing. So before constructing the SLR parsing table, we want to find the follow for all the non-terminals here. So what are the non-terminals? So the follow, we want to find the follow for all the non-terminals. So the first non-terminal is E here. So follow for E. So follow for E, since this is a starting symbol, we should have dollar here, and we can see that after E, if you take up this production, okay, so after E you have plus here, and after E you have a follow that is called as open brackets. So there are two terminals after E here, that is plus and open brackets. So these two will be part of that. So the plus is a follow, and close brackets is called as a follow here. Now the next non-terminal is follow of T. So follow of T, you can see that in this follow of T there is star here. You just take this production, after T there is star, so automatically this comes, and when you take this production after T nothing is there, that means you have to get follow of E as follow of T. So when you just include follow of E here, follow of E is actually dollar plus close brackets, and for this production T is actually followed by star, so star should be there. Now the last one is follow of F here. So follow of F. So follow of F, we can say that F is actually does not actually follow by anything. So when you take up this production, two productions, F is not actually getting followed by anything here. So follow of T is actually follow of F. So follow of T is dollar plus close brackets and star here. So this is called as follow of F. Now we will go for computing this parsing table. So parsing table, you have to put all the terminal symbols which is available in the production here, and that title has to be mentioned as action. And apart from that, you should also mention terminal as dollar here. Okay, dollar is mandatory. And you write all the non-terminals, that is E, T and F, are the non-terminals which pertains to that, the productions. Now you have to write go to on the top. Now how to fill this? So you are getting the item sets from item set 0 to item set 11. So just write all the item sets in row wise. Now we have to fill this column. So how to fill this columns? It's an important point. Now first look into all the productions where a dot is before terminal here. Okay, when dot is before terminal, simply use shift actions here. Okay, now you just see item set 0. When you see item set 0, dot is before open brackets is a terminal, and dot is before ID, just you see open brackets here. So in item set 0, open brackets, where it goes. So in item set 0, open brackets, you have to see item set 0, open brackets, item set 0, open brackets. It is actually generating I4. So you write in this column in open brackets, it goes to I4. Since this is a terminal, you write it as S4. Okay, and when you just see this one, F tends to ID. Okay, so in item set 0 you have ID here, so you just see go to of ID is also a terminal. So go to of I0 comma ID is actually generating I5. Okay, so in table you simply write it as S5. Okay, so you repeat this process for every item set here. Now in item set 0 and in item set 1 you have a dot before a terminal called as plus. So in item set 1 you have to look into plus here. So go to of item set 1 comma plus. So go to of item set 1 comma plus is generating I6 here. So in item set 1 on plus, write it as I6 is generated, so write it as S6. Now we will look into for dot before a terminal in item set 2 here. So you can see that a dot is before star here in item set 2. So we have to process go to of I2 comma star. So where it goes? So go to of I2 comma star actually goes to I7. So in item set 2 on star here, write it as I7 means you write it as S7, because for all the terminals you have to write it as S here. S means it is called a shift. Now I2, now come to I3, there is not any dot before any terminal. Come to I4. In I4 you can see a dot before open brackets. So I4 comma open brackets goes to, so I4 comma open brackets goes to I4, and I4 comma dot ID. Okay, ID is also terminal. I4 comma ID goes to I5. Okay, so we have to write in I4 item set 4 in open brackets I4. In open brackets you have to write it as S4, and in open brackets on ID you have to write it as S5. Okay, now I4 has been processed. Come to I5. So I5 you cannot find anything dot before a terminal, nothing is there. When you come to I6 again, you can see a terminal dot before a terminal called open brackets, and you can see a dot before ID. ID is also a terminal here. So you have to see I6 of open brackets, I6 of ID. So I6 of open brackets goes to I4, and I6 of ID goes to I5 here. So in I6, in open brackets, write it as S4, and ID write it as S5. Okay, now we will just go for I6 has been done, completely done. Now we'll go for I7. So we'll just check it out whether I7 is having any production. So I7, we have dot before open brackets and dot before ID. So I7 we have to process. So go to of I7 here. So go to of I7 comma open brackets gives I4, and I7 comma ID gives I5. So I7 comma open brackets I4. So I write it as S4 here. I7 comma ID gives I5, so write it as S5. So now we can understand from this there is not any new sets which is getting generated again and again. Okay, Now we will go for I6 as I7 has been processed completely. We will go for I8. So in I8, so there is an open bracket here, dot is before an open bracket, so we have to go for I8 comma open bracket. So go to of I8 comma open brackets gives me I11 here. Okay, so I8 comma open brackets, I should write it as, sorry, I8 comma, it's close brackets, isn't it? So I write it as I8 comma close brackets, I write it as S11 because I am getting I11, so just why I am just writing it as S11 here. That's it. Now when you just go to I8 has been completely processed, will come for I9. Okay, so I9 I have a dot before star here, star is a terminal, so go to of I9 comma star, go to of I9 comma star gives me I7, isn't it? Okay, so I9 in I9 comma star is, actually I have to write, it gives me I7 here, so I should write it as S7. That's it. Okay, so I9 has been completely done. Now come to I10. I10 there is not any dot before a terminal. Now look into I11. I11 also dot is not before a terminal, so we can skip it off. That's all. Now one step is done. So now we have seen a dot before a terminal. Okay, everything has been done. Now look into production where dot is before a non-terminal here. So let's come to item set 0, dot is before E here. Okay, so go to of I0 comma E. So we have to process that. Go to of I0 comma T and I0 comma F. So what are all the sets? Because it's dot is before E is at a non-terminal, and dot is before T and dot is before F. These three non-terminals, dot is before that. So in item set 0, so where it goes? So go to item set 0 of E. Okay, item set 0 comma E actually generates I1, item set 0 comma T generates I2, and item set 0 comma F actually generates I3. So I am generating item set 1, 2 and 3. So since this is a non-terminal, so in item set 0 I have to write on E, it is generating 1, item set 1, so simply write it as 1, and T it is generating item set 2, write it as 2, and F it is generating item set 3, so write it as 3. That's it. Now for non-terminals you have to simply, you should not include S, simply write the number. Item set 1 means include 1, that's all. Item set 4 means include 4, that's all. Now in item set 0 there is not any dot before a non-terminal apart from this. In item set 2, item set 1, so there is not a dot before a non-terminal. In item set 2 also there is not any dot before a non-terminal. In item set 3 there is not a dot before a non-terminal. In item set 4 there is a dot before a non-terminal called as E, so two cases. And in item set 4 you have dot before T. Okay, and item set 4 you have dot before F here. So we have three cases. So item set 4 comma E, 4 comma T and 4 comma F we have to look into. So item set 4 comma E which generates item set 8. Okay, item set 4 comma E generates item set 8. Item set 4 comma T generates item set 2. Okay, and 4 comma F generates item set 3. So 4 comma E, so item set 4 comma E, 4 comma E is here, it generates item set 8. So write it as 8 here. Okay. Okay. And 4 comma T generates item set 2. Okay, so simply write it as 2, and item set 4 comma 3 write it as 3 here. That's it. Okay, now we have done this. We will go for item set 4 has been completely done. So now we go for item set 5. There is not dot before a non-terminal. Then item set 6 you can see a dot before T here in two cases, and item set 6 you have dot before F here. That's it, two cases are there, so for T and F. Okay, so item set 6 comma T and 6 comma F, where it goes. So item set 6 comma T is here. Item set 6 comma T is generating I9. Okay, and item set 6 comma F is generating I3 here. So 6 comma T, it's here. I can just write item set 6 comma T is here. It is generating I9, so I simply write it as 9 here. And item set 6 comma F is actually generating I3, so write it as simply 3. That's it. Okay, now item set 6 has been completely processed. We will go for item set 7. In item set 7 you can see that dot is before F here, so and that's it, only one case. Okay, so item set 7 comma F, so item set 7 comma F is generating I10 here. Okay, so in item set 7 and in F, it is item set 7 and in F you just write it generates I10, so simply write it as 10. That's it. So item set 7 has been completely processed. We will go for I8. I8, you can see that there is not dot before a terminal here, non-terminal here, and you go to I9, there is not any dot before a non-terminal, and in I10 also there is not any dot before a non-terminal. In I11 also there is not anything. Okay, that's it. Now we have skipped off. Okay, now what we have to do is, now we have seen a dot before a terminal, dot before a non-terminal, both things has been done, but now we have to see whether dot is at the end, any production where dot is at the end. So now we will just go to this one. In the item set 0 we cannot see dot at the end, nothing. Okay, but in item set 1 you can see that dot is at the end here in production. So for these production alone, you have E dash production, E dot. So what you have to do is, in item set 1 where E dash tends to E dot is there, where dollar is there, you have to simply write it as accept here. So because E dash production in item set 1, E dash tends to E dot, so in dollar is here, simply write it as accept, ACC, accept. Okay, now in item set 2 you can see E tends to T dot. Now we have to name this, number this productions. E tends to T dot. So this is production number 1, this is production number 2, production number 3, production number 4, 5 and 6, production number 6. So wherever E tends to T is there, first what you have to do is, E tends to T means you have to see what is the follow of E here. Wherever follow is there for E, you just write the production number E tends to T is 2 here. E tends to T is 2. So that should be a reduced to production, simply write it as R2. So in item set 2, we are getting E tends to T dot. So for E, you have dollar plus and this one, close brackets. So in E, item set 2, here in plus you have to write it as R2. In dollar you have to write it as R2, and in close brackets also you have to write it as R2. So it's just about the reduced production here. Okay, now I2 has been done. Now I3 you have T tends to F dot because dot is at the end. Now you have to see the follow for T. So wherever follow for T tends to F is actually production number 4. So you are supposed to write R4 here. Okay, so find the follow for T in item set 3. Find the follow for T. Follow for T is dollar plus close brackets and star here. So in item set 3, dollar plus you have to write it as R4, close brackets, write it as R4, then dollar is here, write it as R4, and star is here, so write it as R4, because all these are actually follow for R4 here. Okay. Now in item set 3, everything has been done. When you just take item set 4, no, you cannot see any dot at the end. In item set 5, you can see dot at the end, so find the follow for F in item set 5. So follow for F is dollar plus close brackets and so star. So F tends to ID, what is the production number? F tends to ID is production number 6. So in I5, you have to write in plus, write it as R6, and star, you write it as R6, and where close brackets is there, write it as R6, and here in ID also, sorry, in dollar also, write it as R6. That is pertains to item set 5. Okay. Item set 6. Now come to item set 6. You cannot find any dot at the end, so skip it off. Item set 7. You cannot find dot at the end, skip it off. And item set 8. You cannot see dot at the end, skip it off. And item set 9, you can see dot at the end, so you have to see the follow for E in item set 9. So follow for E is dollar plus and close brackets in item set 9, and E tends to this productions. Okay, so this production E tends to E plus T is production number 1. Okay, so in item set 9, you see plus dollar is here, so dollar you have to write it as R1, sorry, in plus you have to write it as R1, in dollar you have to write it as R1 again, and in close brackets write it as R1. That's it. Now item set 9 has been done. Now item set 10. Item set 10, you have T tends to T star F. Okay, so this production is there. Find the follow for T in item set 10. So item set T tends to T star F is R3 here, production number 3. So you are already finding the follow for T here. Follow for T is dollar plus close brackets and star. Okay, so in 10, write it as plus is here, write it as R3, and star is there, write it as R3, and close brackets is there, write it as R3, and dollar is here, so simply write it as R3. That's it. And the last stage is actually you see a production in item set 11. Item set 11, F tends to E dot is there. So what is the production number? So F tends to E dot is production number 5. Okay, so find the follow for F in item set 11. So item set 11 follow for F is same thing you are getting. Okay, so in follow for F in item set 11, you just write it as plus, you write it as R5, star, you write it as R5, and close brackets, write it as R5, and dollar also you write it as R5. So that's it. So this is the way of filling the parsing table for SLR parsing. Okay, so thanks for watching the video. Have a good day. Thank you and Jai Hind.